like I said before, right? It's a Saturday. These are difficult times. All of us are stuck at home, not able to go anywhere at all. I know all of us are frustrated. Myself, Pitula, Ashish, we really didn't want to frustrate you more. So the session, of course, it has to have takeaways, right? But the primary aspect here is for us to have fun. So, whatever you feel like talking, when Ashish is talking, when we talk, please
Yeah.
feel free to, of course, open your heart out on the chat, all right? And any questions you have, of course, please feel free to do that on Slido. So, yeah, you can upvote questions on Slido as well. And in case your questions don't really get an upvote, I'll give you a small tip. Upvote your own question. Slido doesn't get it. So you can move up from 0 to at least 1, right? So just all your questions in Slido, all the chat, everything that you want to do, you can do it on the chat section, right? And it's fantastic. We have a really good bunch today. We have existing product managers, we have entrepreneurs here, and we also have students who want to know more about things. So perhaps we'll jump straight into today's talk, right? But before getting into talk, maybe just a couple of things, to perhaps, get a warm up done, right? To actually, before we get to know what Ashish is about, who's Ashish, what Kaleyra is about, we will do a little warm up. This small activity, I have a story here for you, and I really want you to guess the company here, right? So that's the first part. And before that, I really hope everybody is aware of who product folks are. We run a community here with the vision that we want to bring the entire product community together, and also to ensure that people who want to know more about product management perhaps get to learn more as well through talks, workshops, everything that we conduct. And thank you so much, Ashish, for being here. Right?
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Great. So a small story here. So this is a company. It's not really an Indian company as such, but it's global. A lot of companies use the product, right? So essentially, when they started off way back in about 2000 or so, right after the .com burst. And when they started off as a web development, um, a services company, right? They used to do everything that any other company asked them to do as such. So that is how they started off, and they had to send out mails to their customers, right, telling them or promoting their own services as such. And they realized that there was no other company that could do it effectively. So they built their own product as such, okay, a mailing service. But they realized that, okay, fine, if I build this product, I don't really get a lot of money out of this product, because when I do a web development project, I get about $50,000, and when I do provide a mailing platform, I get $50 as such. So they like parked it aside. But again, after 4 or 5 years or so, they ultimately understood that maybe the money lies in the mailing system. So they came back, made this mailing product their actual product, and now they're worth close to $1 billion or so. So I wanted to ask you, do you know what this company is, which actually bootstrapped along the entire way? Right? They never really took any funding as such. They bootstrapped the entire way, and it's a very, very successful product now. Can you tell me what it is? I have a few answers here. It's an email marketing automation tool, but now it's like a full-fledged marketing automation tool. They've become really, really big, and they've not taken any funding at all. Yeah, I have a lot of answers here. Guys, any other guesses? All right. So the answer is actually MailChimp, right? So Ben Chestnut started off the company. He had absolutely zero faith in investors because the .com burst just happened. Of course, it was, he was like, okay, these are the people who actually made it happen, right? Funding all the companies out there. And that's the reason that he said, no, I'm not going to actually go for any investments. They don't really motivate me. Let me stick to the bootstrap plan. And it worked out really well for them. So that's regarding MailChimp. That's one question I had for you. So fantastic to everybody. I mean, it's just fantastic that a lot of you actually guessed the answer. The second part is a very, very normal question. Uh, we spoke about the .com burst. Now come to the 2008-2009 crisis as such. Right. So basically, if you look at it, Uber, WhatsApp, let's say Venmo, for example, all of these companies actually started off during this particular crisis, right? They're pretty huge now, and they all started off during the crisis. But they're not the only companies. We also have someone with us who started off in 2008 when it was at its peak, right? And they still managed to like pull it off extremely well. So Ashish, thank you so much for being on the show today with us.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, Ashish, like I said, I really wanted to keep it light. So I was hoping to understand, can you tell us a little more about your childhood? Or, how did this entrepreneurship drive actually come up? But before that, can we talk about Kaleyra? I mean, I think I know about Kaleyra. Mithula knows about Kaleyra. Audience doesn't really know about
Sure.
it.
Sure. So Kaleyra is a result of a merger of two companies that happened in 2018, and we rebranded. So the merger happened in 2016, and then we rebranded in 2018, right? So again, the merger, when you talk about, there was a company which is started in Italy way back in 1999 called Ubiquity, right? And we started Solutions Infini way back in 2009. Okay, and then once we had the merger in 2016, we decided to rebrand ourselves to Kaleyra because that looks nice when you put it out on the IPO. And obviously, when you doing a merger, you obviously try to merge few things. So that's when we decided to have Kaleyra. But then Kaleyra as a service, we empower businesses to communicate with their customers using channel like messaging, voice, WhatsApp, and a lot more other channels getting added to our stack, right? So this is our primary thing. So let's say if you talk about a last mile delivery for Amazon or Flipkart, right? So when people are out delivering your product and they want to reach out to you, so we empower that, right? So it could be as simple as that, and also could be an OTP that a bank is trying to send out to its users, right? And it's a critical messaging that has to be driven by a strict SLA of 15 seconds, right? So that kind of a market is what we cater. So we work with new age startups. You talk about Swiggy, you talk about Zomato, Amazon, Flipkart, there are many more like that, right? So that's what we empower them so that they can talk to their customers really well.
Brilliant. You actually facilitate the entire communication channel.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And of course, all of this started off with a dream. I really want to know how it started off. So, were you always? Did you always have this entrepreneurship drive, or is it something that suddenly came up?
As a family, my family had a business where you kind of sit in the shop the entire day, and that's something which I never wanted to do, right? So at a very young age, when I was just about 14, that's when my dad bought his first computer at home. And I was so attracted towards that particular device, and I started fiddling with it, and I started loving that device so much, right? And I wanted to know more. I grew curious about it, and I became very, very passionate about computers. So at that time, my dad, obviously, whatever exposure we had at that point of time, I managed to learn C, C++, Java, HTML, CSS, and web was extremely attractive to me at that point of time. So I happened to do those courses, and then that obviously brought me to Bangalore, right? And then while I was in Bangalore, I started doing some part-time jobs. I started building websites, and while doing my college and both, right? So that's what I was doing. So while in college, again, what happened was whatever was practically taught, like programming language, I kind of knew most of it. So I was like 90 plus in all my practicals and just managed to pass my theoretical exams, right? So that was been the foundation. And then like I was missing college, and my friends really helped me pull out by providing notes. And so you should really finish your college. And because at that moment, I started Solutions Infini, and I was doing small projects like website development for a lot of companies.
Okay. Oh, you started Solutions Infini. I mean, was it Solutions Infini then?
Yes, 2000, way back when I started doing part-time jobs, I was working for some companies, and I used to like just finish college and go there. And then these companies decided, so one of the companies decided to wrap up business, and it was not really making sense for him. And then I was lost, right? So I said, then the founder of that company reached out. He said, why don't you start something? I can hand over all the projects to you. And that's when Solutions Infini was actually started as a proprietorship, right? So I went running to the chartered accountant, getting the company registered, working from home. I had a small setup at home, which my family obviously supported me with. And I kind of started with doing that kind of a job initially.
Right. You must be feeling nostalgic back to working from home.
Yeah, yeah, that's, even if you can invite friends to work with you also, it will be amazing actually.
Right. And it's interesting that you mentioned it. Actually, my father was also, he also really wanted me to learn something. He bought me a computer too. But
Right.
I don't think your story ended the same way.
uh, that's how it was. But it's
Right.
great, right? I understand how that particular part happened. It's great that your father inspired, your family inspired you, and then of course you picked it up as well.
Right.
But what about college? Like, did friends play a role too?
Yes, in a way, they did because so what happened is when you get together, you do projects, right? So every year of the college, you do some projects. And so we obviously had people who were doing bachelor in computer applications along with me, but they were not keen about programming. One of them was obviously the co-founder who joined me later on. So like I was the one writing the programs, one of them was doing documentations, right? So that was the typical thing. But then I think as and when I went on to my third year and the second year of my college, I started working more because that's when Solutions Infini was started. So I used to work all night, attend college, go for meetings, get a business, raise an invoice. So I was a one-man army then, right? And then so I started losing a lot of interest in pursuing my education, right? And then that's where my friends really helped me, I would say. And so they did provide me with notes, and they did ensure that I attend my exams, right? And also give proxies in my class when I was not present and stuff like that.
All right, fantastic. So that's why you met Aniket. So Aniket is the co-founder you're speaking about, no? Aniket Jain?
Yeah, so I met Aniket and my wife in college. So
Oh, all
right.
right. Okay, it's a good love story as well. We did expect this angle to go.
Yeah.
All right. Great. So I understand that part, but what about Solutions Infini as an idea? Like, was there a pain point you were trying to solve? Like, how did that actually come up? That this is the problem I'll kind of go about solving.
Yeah, back then when I was working on several projects as a final year project, Aniket was a part of that project too. So we built a college management system, right? So I was particularly very keen, and I was like taken aback by what Christ College had at that point of time, where you could do everything. You can manage your attendance and an online education portal where you could do a lot of stuff, right? So what we did is for the final year project, that was about 300 marks. So we ended up building, I think about 400 was the marks you get. And we ended up building a platform that could do a lot of these things for colleges and schools. Okay, and also send out an SMS to the parents if the student did not reach college and stuff like that. So especially I spent a lot of time in building that part of it because messaging was something very new. I was very keen about solving that problem, and we managed to do that. But then that was something to do with a SIM card that was attached to a GSM modem, and then that was attached to the software that was sending out messages to the users, right? So when Solution Infini, like after college, like everybody was running behind job, I obviously had let's say everybody's running after job. I decided, okay, let me continue with doing whatever I can do with Solutions Infini then. And then suddenly when you say everyone is running towards one side, you get attracted towards that side, right? So I said, okay, let me try and sit for the Infosys campus interviews, because Infosys was something which is very attractive. I really admire Mr. Narayan Murthy. And I did sit for the interview, and I was not selected. And then, it became very clear that I can pursue Solutions Infini. So when I started pursuing Solution Infinity, that was something that came to my mind, saying that what was the project we worked on college? Let's go and sell out to schools and colleges, right? So we made a lot of attempt to kind of sell that, but then that really didn't work, right? So then we said, okay, let's do website development, which I was doing initially as a part-time. So I wanted to take that as a full-time, and we started getting a lot of website e-commerce development. We did at that point of time. We in fact built a lot of let's say ticket booking sites for local theaters in Bangalore. So this was basically a requirement that came to us. We built e-commerce for Sapna Book House. So we did close to about 100 websites. Okay, and then we kind of decided that it doesn't really work. So in any part of our website development, we had the messaging piece integrated. So that was something which was always attractive, always wanted to do that, and always had an extra charge for doing that, right? So meanwhile, we were using a third-party company who was, we were using their APIs to do that particular job. So then around that point, like we did that for about a couple of years. And then we started looking at our numbers. And, when you are straight from college, really immature, not knowing how to run business and just trying to figure out a lot of things, we also tried to onboard an advisor from a company where we went to sell our product. And looking at our balance sheet, I think it was very clear that you should pursue doing messaging or a campaign kind of business rather than doing a website, because that's not really giving you a lot of money and it's manpower intensive. Okay, and then we decided to start building the product at that point of time for messaging. I think that was a turning point for the entire company at that point.
Fantastic. That's great. So essentially, it's a small pivot that we had. So we went from services where we were picking up like web development products. Actually, I think the story that I said before, the first story that I narrated about Mailchimp, it's kind of similar if you really look at it, because
Yes, it
you
does, you know.
went from web development to you know becoming a product. I think you also took a similar path. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
for once I thought you were talking about Kaleyra.
So great. So
That
that's
would have been a really easy case, Ashish. That's why.
I agree.
so easy. Right? Great. So that's how the ideation of how you don't want to focus on the services part. SMS as a product is what you wanted to sell came about. But if you really look at it, I think if I'm not wrong, it's a market where you have so many government regulations, right? Unlike other markets where I can just build a product and start doing it. Of course, I think uh, people who are in the payments industry in the audience today would also agree with the regulations part of things, right? It's difficult to build a product where you have a lot of regulations coming in. So uh, I just want to understand. I just want to understand the challenges that you had.
Yeah, right. I think being in a regulated market, which we didn't have a conscious decision, when we were doing it, we didn't really think about it. You have to kind of work with operators, and then the messaging was particularly considered as spamming setup, right? So it was important that you organize it better and really control the spam that goes out, right? But then obviously having the right intention as a company, we were always looking for like customers who would really send genuine traffic. We put in policies like that, but then this particular factor made us think at times that probably how will we really do it, but then I think we really were able to find a workaround. Okay, because let's say you hit a certain volume, your business is doing well, and suddenly there's a regulation that comes in, right? And then when the regulation comes in, you have to really modify the way you work. I think it was just a initial hiccup, but then we managed to work overnight, change a lot of things in the systems to kind of adapt to that particular regulation, right? But now I think we've learned that very well, and we have built the platform in a way that these kind of regulations we can really manage well, right? Because suddenly there was a requirement for a numeric sender ID going on. There was a prefix that has to be given on all sender IDs. So, and this has been a constant change for us, typically in the Indian market, right? But then I know it's regulated, it's commoditized, it's tricky. Okay, but then I think it's all about finding the right balance and trying to really solve the problems at that point of time. We Indians, we have the tendency of finding a loophole in everything. But I would not say that we found a loophole, but then we kind of found a workaround to do this business where it really helps people. Because see, understand, let's say your credit card, somebody's stolen it and is really shopping on it, right? The only way you can know about it is through messages, right? As much as it can it can impact someone, it can also add a lot of value. Okay, and I think that was our focus from day one, how we can make it more valuable for our customers.
That's actually great. And I just want to remind the audience, we are still speaking about college kids who like just graduated, right? So yeah. So like, and you spoke about an advisor, but I'm still wondering as to did you like hire more people who could help you, with these regulations? I mean, finding loopholes in the regulation, or was it like all of you kids came together, somehow found the loopholes and progressed? How was that?
I think when we started, like being a commoditized business, there are a lot of other players who were there in the market, right? So um, you get to learn a lot. I think we were always in, like as a community, we never thought competitors. So we talk, we figure out what are the ways you can really do it, how will it really work, right? So that was one part. I mean, um, advisor being on board, I think it added a value in giving us a vision to what we can really change or how we can hire. But then being a bootstrap company back then, recession hitting in, right? And uh, frankly, I think we didn't know much about raising money at that point of time except from families, right? So we were very, very conservative about hiring people, right? Because we still remember when my family gave me an office for 5 people. He said just use it for some time, and we were like 2 or 3 guys working in the office, which include Aniket, myself. And And then we were wanting to hire someone, and the person who walked into the office asked for a 6,000 rupees salary, and we were really worried how we'll pay him, right? And we went back to him after 2 months. We said, okay, let's hire him. We'll see, right? So I think again, not having access to funds, we really didn't were not able to hire talents, right? We were only hiring freshers, okay, showing them the way. And if you call me, I was also a fresher back then, yeah, right? Because a fresher trying to teach a fresher, I think that's a deadly mix, right? So we somehow managed to do that because we didn't really, at that point we took the risk of doing things without worrying about it. Our intentions was like we don't want to fail. I think failure is something which never came to our mind. There's a way around for everything, so let's do it.
Great.
So I still remember that when we decided to build our product for the messaging, we built it in like 2 days, two of us, the first hire we had and me. And the sales guys were so excited. They went back and started selling the product. We hit a 1 million numbers of messages and we crashed.
Okay.
Okay. And that was a lot of learning. I mean, someone experienced would tell you to do it in the right way, but then a lot of figuring out had to be done by us to kind of get to where we are right now.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's
Just
exactly
one
how.
thing here, Akash. So, Ashish, when you said you had your sales guys, but I thought it's just a three-member engineering team. So, you already had sales guys. Did you have actually a well-formed team by then?
No, so very interestingly, we didn't wanted to pay salaries for people, but then when the recession hit, Aniket decided that he will join. Okay, though he got a job offer in Cognizant at that point of time, and he was waiting for his offer letter, and he used to just loiter around the office and help me out a little bit here and there. He said, "I can let me join you. I'll help you out." Right? So I said, "Okay, you're most welcome," because then I don't have to do all the runaround. Okay, and then it was a proper, it was a complementing skill, right? So Aniket was, though he was a computer graduate, but he didn't like coding. So he said he was more interested in selling things, right? Marketing it. So he continued doing that. I continued building it. But then, going forward, after the next batch of our college folks, they passed out and they were also hunting around and they got to know that Ashish has started something. Okay, let us join them, right? So what we did is we pulled another three guys, and that's how we divided operations, sales, and these guys were really not worried about salaries, right? So initial founding team was very, very crucial for us. I think we won't have been able to make it so big if we didn't have these five guys focusing on their things, doing whatever is necessary to make it happen. Okay, without having knowledge, you sometimes look dumb when people ask you about some jargons, but then we managed it. So there's been a lot of funny incidents where when we just initially started, and there was one of our college mate who joined us later. He had gone to attend to a client. He said, you run a campaign and then I'll pay you, right? And then we ran the campaign. He goes back to take the money, and he was trapped in the office saying that your campaign did not work. I'm not paying you. And he was stuck there for like few hours, and he had to call for help. Right. So I think incidents like that is really, I think when we look back at it, it is so funny. I mean, how did that really happen? How could we make mistakes like that?
Right. And I have one question here. Actually, it's something that I really wanted to ask you. Like, did you meet Narayan Murthy by any? You mentioned he was your idol, right? Did you get to meet Narayan Murthy by any chance in this particular?
No, we didn't. We in fact got a notice from Narayan Murthy from Infosys once. So this is because so much inspired by solutions Infini. So Infini turned out to become INFI for some of our products, and very in the next few months we had a notice from Infosys saying that it's their trademark, we cannot use it.
Okay.
Right. So I think that was as close as I got to Infosys at that point of time.
So maybe you do, when you do meet Mr. Murthy, you can tell him that thank you for rejecting me.
Yeah.
So probably I wouldn't have made it so big otherwise.
Yeah,
So,
and then I formally replied saying that I'm so sorry for doing this. I will change it immediately, and it doesn't cost us to do anything at that point. So we changed back to Infini then.
all right. Makes sense. And what I'll do now, Ashish, is probably I'll do the heavy lifting now. I'll enter into the topic, right? Because I have a question here in the chat section, which probably is getting more towards the topic. So we'll start getting into the topic, right? Which is basically a very good segue because we spoke about SMS marketing as a product. But this was not the only product, right? There are so many other products that you eventually went out to build.
Right.
I want to understand what was the thought process behind the diversification. Why did you actually do it? And what are these different products doing?
Okay, so when we were building our initial product. Let's say we built a very basic system, and then we went out to sell to the customer, and then the customer says, "Do you have this, this, this?" Right? Because again, being in a business which is highly competitive, you have to have an edge over the others to offer, right? So anytime we got a requirement, I think we were driven by customers' requirements. So we had a requirement, we went back, we started building it, and that's how we started offering this as a solution, right? So way back in 2000. I think 2010 is when we built our messaging platform, and then we started evolving over a period of time, making it scalable. A lot of things happened at that point of time, the messaging, and then any requirement that came from the customer, we started accommodating that in the product, okay, so that we can onboard that particular customer. But then again, in 2000, around 2013, 14, we also got a requirement for a voice solution, right? So that's when we started looking at, okay, so there was competitors like Nolarity. I mean, Nolarity was just launching the message, their OBD campaign system there back then. And a lot of customers came back and asked us, do you have something like this? And we said, okay, let us figure out. So I started doing some R&D, and then I think we had a technology that could really solve this problem. Very quickly, we built the product. So, we never wasted in delivering something and do a very MVP kind of an approach initially, build it quickly and give it to the customer so that you have someone can testing it. I think for a product, being in a situation where a customer is asking for something and you deliver it quickly, I think that's the best situation to be in. So we quickly built it. We gave out that. Again, there were a lot of challenges in getting there in terms of solving it. We put the right tracking system. We started again building it over and over, improving the entire platform. And then there was again a need for someone saying that, okay, I want to do a multi-channel thing where if somebody sends an SMS and then someone says help, or I want to talk to you, I want the call to be connected between two people, right? So then we started again building that solution. We kind of did that. Then someone asked us about, let's say when somebody's calling us, I want to play an IVR and take them through some, let's say, steps. And then this data should be picked up from our servers, and we will feed that data to the IVR system, and you should play. And after the call is over, you should send out an SMS maybe, right? So then, I mean, though SMS was one product, we didn't want to touch that because we were really scared that we'll break something. We built up another platform, which was a voice platform, and then figured out a way to integrate that so that they can talk to each other, right? But then this was very specific to India at that point of time. So we were only focused on India as a market.
Okay.
Makes sense. So what you're saying is that all the other products also, if you really look at it, they're all related to the phone system, right? Be it SMS, be it voice calling, even IVR. If you really look at it, it's a channel to phone calls itself, and it completes the loop when you complete a call, and then maybe hey, do you want to rate us? Send a customer SMS back.
Exactly.
So that's great. So it basically revolves around similar products as such. But
but then you know what? We kind of got diverted in between. We started doing a lot of things like visitor management system and a lot of stuff. We were able to drive some customers. Then I think we took a conscious call about having the right focus. Way back then when we decided to stop doing services and only focus on messaging, I think that was a point where we really took off. That learning helped us here to not change your focus, do something which you're doing really well. Okay, don't try to change things now because again, if we had access to funds, maybe it was a different story. But then I think we then took a conscious call about stopping everything else. We were focusing on get back to what the reality was for us, right? So then at that point, we decided to do everything around communication. Okay, and that will be our forte, where we will offer businesses a communication stack that can really help him communicate with his customers really well.
Great.
Akash, I'm sorry, but I know I'm going back. We have already got inside product, but just one thing, Ashish. So when you were talking about having multiple customers and how we were handling their requirements and everything, but can you tell us about your first customer after you started focusing on SMS? Like, how did you acquire them? How did you convince them? That should be one hell of a story. I think even in chat, we have one question similar to that.
Sure. So see, initially we were only getting small ticket size, right? And we were kind of okay with that, and then suddenly at that point, UCB, the United Colors of Benetton, right, reached out to us for a campaign or a system that they wanted to send out messages for the entire India. Okay, and that ticket size was about 10 lakhs. Okay, and then, I still have a copy of that check which we got first, right? So what we did is we first went to our scanner, scanned it, and then we encashed the check. Okay. So, I think then really understands what the value of ticket size is. So we were happy with small, right? And when you start getting more, you start focusing on larger ticket size.
Okay. So that's nice. Interesting. Awesome, Akash. Like you can continue.
Yeah. It's okay. I mean, it's great. Actually,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah, coming back to maybe just reiterating what we had left off. Okay, we spoke about one product SMS to building products around it. You tried building other products as well, but maybe realize that, the focus should be on what you're already doing really well. So you build, products around the existing SMS platform, be it voice calling services or other services as such. I believe what you're doing now includes even WhatsApp services, like people can
Yes,
speak on WhatsApp, and there are also chatbots, right?
right,
And if I'm not wrong, you're doing something for the COVID relief fund as well, where
right,
people can chat with the bot, and I'm not sure
exactly.
what exactly it is. Would you be able to?
Sure. So I think there's a lot of story in between that. Ideally, WhatsApp, when they launched it, we were a global company then, and I think there was a lot of story around how we went global from India, right? So, but then being a global company, I think we obviously got approached and saying that if you would like to offer this solutions for WhatsApp solution for especially the European and the UAE market, right? And then we started integrating that solution around our messaging piece, right? So once we did that, when we went out to sell out to customers, they said that WhatsApp alone will not be enough unless it's driven by a chatbot, right? Something where people can interact. So then again, we had in-house talent at that point of time doing artificial intelligence, and we kind of built a very minimal a chatbot. Though initially, when there was a requirement, we reached out to other company who was doing this really well to onboard that particular customer, right? But then, WhatsApp was what we were offering. The integration was through a third-party company who was doing the chatbot. Okay, and their ticket size was like 10 times bigger than what what we got paid. That got us thinking about, let's have something as a chatbot, because having a chatbot, you could use SMS as a channel, you could use WhatsApp as a channel, you could use voice as a channel. It's a win-win for us. So we built it, and then we wanted to test that out, and then that's when in Bangalore we have the MP of South, Mr. Tejasvi Surya, right? So he reached out. So we're kind of connected in some sense in politics, right? I don't want to get deep into that. So we were trying to solve a problem where they were saying that, okay, how do we ensure that people stay home? Okay, and we can accommodate any needs they have. Apart from groceries, let's say someone who is a diabetic or somebody who needs a dialysis wants to reach out to the hospital, right? How does he really go out? Because everything is closed, right? So how can we really help them? So what we did is we launched a telephony system where people could call, and we had volunteers who were answering those calls. And at a certain point we realized the volunteers is something which was let's say absconding suddenly, right? Suddenly you have 20 volunteers, and suddenly there are only 5 answering the call. So we said we need something like a WhatsApp where people can really interact. So especially for Bangalore South, initially we did this where we integrated our trial based chatbot into that. Okay, and people started ordering groceries, medicines through that particular channel, whoever were tech savvy. Everyone else could call on that number. So you see that we have a chatbot, WhatsApp, voice, all three integrated in this solution, right? And then we extended this to entire Bangalore. Okay, and it worked really well when, I mean, there was a total lockdown. Also, we're working with this project called Project Step One, which is working with the central government for the helpline numbers, which is 104. Right. So what we're doing is, 104, initially, if people have any health related queries, they reach out on 104, and they kind of talk to a call center. So that was the initial solution, right? And then the expectation is the number of calls will increase so much that the call centers will not be able to handle them, right? And in a situation like this, something like us really helps you, because we run on a high bandwidth and a high capacity that we can handle, right? So we started working with BSNL. We stepped in there. Okay, we had them deploy the solution because there were some technicalities that was required to have a BSNL connectivity, not use our own connectivity, which we had. And then, we kind of rerouted 104 to our solution, and then it goes through that. So what we do is we screen the COVID related case, ask them for specific questions, and then we put into a system, okay, which is like a fresh desk. And then we have doctors who talk to this patient, right? So during this phase also, like now as a stack, we're trying to work on audio video as a solution. Okay, and we're trying to see if we can do a doctor can talk to the patient over an audio video with a simple link that they can click and they can talk, right? So this is the entire solution. Now what we also do is, let's say if it is non-COVID related, we forward it to the call center. So we have done this in Karnataka, Nagaland, MP, like about 7 states we are live at the moment. Okay, and we are hoping that when it scales up, I think we will be in a very good situation to handle that kind of a call. People trying to reach 104, they're not able to reach anyone. they panic, they step out of the house, reach out to the hospital, right? And it's risky. So we were able to really manage this situation really well with the solution which we have.
That's great. And I'm just a little curious. What was the time period? I mean, was the chatbot built out during the Corona period itself? Because
No, actually, we started working on it before that, and we had a competitor to look at. I mean, see, it's not always good to. I would say that being a follower is also good. We knew that what the third party we were working with is able to offer.
yeah,
Okay, and really building that, looking at what others have. So we have built a very strong chatbot right now. We can do multilingual, a lot of stuff, right? But then that took us about a good 2 months, but we were not able to experiment with anyone. We got a puppet to test on right now.
okay. It's, I know it's a bad thing, but still, it's good that you could experiment during this Corona phase as such.
Yeah. And we were very, very conscious about it, put a lot of effort in testing it. I mean, it works really well. So even the MPs, the politicians were helpful, saying that let's launch in one area, we'll see how it works, then expand to more areas. And they were okay with doing that,
Right.
scaling out slowly.
It's fantastic. It's a noble cause as well. So
Right.
it's really great. Great. And I just want to know the timeline because we spoke about so many different products here. Can you tell us a timeline about when was each product launched and what was perhaps the revenue at that stage and how did it shoot up?
Yeah, so 2010, that's when we started doing messaging. Before that, we were about 20-30 lakhs in revenue. And 2010, when we started focusing on messaging, we reached about 70 lakhs. And then, we almost more than doubled our revenues every year, right? So with messaging, we started doubling our revenues. In fact, in 2013-14, we launched our voice platform. During the same time, we launched our global messaging platform. Okay, and so we were awarded by Deloitte like almost 4 times in a row for the fastest growing technology company in Asia and in India. And then the revenue started increasing. And so in 2016, while we were merging, we were close to about 70, 80 crores in revenue.
Great. I have one question here for you, Ashish, because that's basically the topic. It's there right in the topic, right? We're speaking about turning a product into a platform. So my question here is because there's a lot of folks from college as well. So what do you mean by a platform here? And just want to know what exactly why would anybody consider building a platform, and why you especially went from perhaps having a different set of products to perhaps having one single platform for everything. Just want to know that.
So see, when you talk about a platform, right? So if you talk about a SaaS, it's basically a software stack solving a particular need, right? But when you talk about a platform, we have a huge inventory of, let's say, connectivity with operators, right? So because we have to deal with operators for messaging connectivity, and these are high-level connectivities working on S7 and SMPP layers, right? So, and similarly for voice, like we have more than 100 deployments all over India. In different states where we've kind of tackled Ahmedabad to Indore to any states. Let's say a customer has a requirement there. Okay, we are able to give you a local number, right? So now this piece of software talks to the platform, and this platform is something which we call as gateway in our terms. So we have set up a gateway which really talks to the platform, right? And then the platform is again, it's not really easy to manage because then you have a lot of variables and a lot of changing things, a lot of things that can go wrong, right? So that's why we call it as CPaaS, right? Communication Platform as a Service. We don't call it as SaaS. So since the platform layer gets attached to it, I think that's the reason we call it as from product to platform, or let's say building a platform.
Perfect. That makes sense. And the platform, if I'm not wrong, so what exactly is Hexa now? If you talk about Hexa, I believe.
Okay, so yeah, so when we had this global market, when we started looking, so back in 2013, we kind of like between the phase of 2009, 2010 and 13, we started going out and setting up offices all across India so that you have a local sales team that can manage sales for you, right? And at that point, let's say entire development was happening from Bangalore. And then, you kind of get saturated, not able to acquire new customers and you're growing not very fast, right? So that's when we said, let's look at the global market. And we got an opportunity to travel in the year 2013 to Barcelona. So there's a Mobile World Congress that happens every year. When we went there for the first year, we were surprised by the kind of opportunity you have in the global market using a communication platform, right? And then we saw what people are offering, what people do in messaging specifically, right? And then we came back and we built a platform so that we can go next year and start selling it there, right? So when we did that, we started selling the platform. So what happens here is, let's say we are very strong in Asia. Someone in Europe has a customer, like an aggregator or a business like us in Europe has a requirement for sending messages to Asia, and we can really empower that, right? And that's how you really build your backbone connectivity for terminating SMSs to any part of the country. So now we can send SMSs to any countries you want, right? So when we did that, and then after the merger happened, we decided to take the product as is to the global market, make some modifications and launch it in the global market. But then, there were different challenges when we were doing that. Let's say in India, we were following a way where, because it's a platform where people can really misuse it. It is important that we onboard the customer. We have a sales cycle here in India, and that's how we were onboarding customers. But when you talk about a global market, people really don't want to talk to you. Okay, getting even people, getting even people to sell your product, it's very difficult. You can't hire people that easily there. So that's when I think when we came back, we saw that this is a misfit, right? So we need to have a product that can be in one channel, which can be a multi-channel platform, okay, and can do everything in a single platform, right? Okay. So when you talk about CPaaS, it is SMS, voice, audio, video, chat, emails, all of that you can do in one single platform, right? And anything you do to communicate, I think we would add into this particular stack. That's the plan, right? So when we came back, we saw, okay, I think we need something which can really tackle the global market, be compliant, GDPR, and these compliance are necessary. So how do you really tackle this problem from day one and ensure that you go out in the market, right? So that's when we started looking at Hexa, because when we build that platform in 2 days and you're just making improvements, and then suddenly at one point you decide to redo it, again, make improvements, right? You really understand what you could have done better. So Hexa is a learning from past 10 years. Okay, we're doing it extremely well, extremely scalable, that can sit into different locations, can serve, be compliant, can handle all of that into a particular system. Right, so we started working on this platform from past 1.5 years now. Okay, it's live. It's doing the messaging piece. Voice is coming out very, very soon. And also like our voice solution was India centric, right? And we know SMS and we do SMS and voice very well in India, right? And even for the global market, SMS is quite strong in terms of what we offer, right? Voice again has a different norms for every country. It allows you VoIP, it allows you IP. Okay, but that's something it's a little different for us to tackle. But then we are trying to figure out and have the voice system also launched globally, where you could take numbers for any countries you want.
Okay, Akash, just one question here. So Ashish, a lot of top companies, lot of top platform companies today, they became from product to platform, right? So there are two main reasons why they do that. One is mainly because of survival instinct. Another is because, it would be a clearly thought through strategy. So from what you spoke, I can see that there was a big strategy in place, but was there something to do with survival instinct as well?
No, you know what, again, when you look at the global market, a lot of companies provide a platform with a simple API, right? And the product really doesn't do a lot, but just takes that request and send it out to you, out through the platform to the operators, right? But then when you have a product layer in between, which can do some bit of intelligence, right? Let's say, can do something like an automation for you or some requests and gives you a fancy UI to solve your purpose and stuff like that. I think that's when you really focus. So I would say that we are product and platform, right? But then earlier we were more about platform, but now it's product and platform, right? So we were only focusing on platform before, okay, where we had APIs simply wrapping out few things, had very little features on the product. But now this product is something which is meant for developers, which is meant for SMEs, it is meant for enterprises. So they all can use it. So some prefer to use the UI, which we are doing extremely well to ensure that you can do everything that you need in UI with market automation or some intelligence being built on the platform. And then also do very well with the platform, where if someone like a developer is using an API, they can interact with the platform really, really well.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, Akash.
So I just wanted to summarize maybe the difference here. So in all essence, what you're saying is that they all existed as different products, right? You had, let's say, an SMS service for India, an SMS service for the world.
Right.
Same is true with phone systems as well. And what you wanted to do is you wanted to build one layer that can facilitate all of this, be it for India,
Exactly.
be it for abroad. Everything goes through this one particular layer as such. So that's one part of it. And apart from that, what this platform also allowed you to do is what you mentioned, right? Maybe come up with a product that can directly be used by the audience as well. So anything regarding marketing automation as such.
Right.
And I believe you're going into other channels of communication as well apart from the phone channels now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great. I completely understand that aspect. And I maybe wanted to, okay, just for the audience, we'll start the Q&A session in about 10 minutes. I know that, a lot of you have a lot of questions here. You've been pinging me privately as well. So, please do post it on Slido. We'll ensure that, Ashish is there for the next, till 3:30 for sure. So we'll ensure that all the questions are answered here. Right. So I think we covered one part of it, which is about how the different products journey happened and how the platform came into existence as such. Now, I one question I really had for you here was, the challenge for the engineering team, be it for the GTM team, when you moved away from one approach that you had to a platform approach now. You mentioned that every 2 days you made a few changes, look back, learned, and then progress. But I really want to understand the challenges a little more, right? So that the audience also has some takeaways on how they can do it in their own companies.
Sure. So, initially I would say we were engineering and product, right? So anything that came in, we started building it first. I mean, jumped into engineering, right? But then, when you become a little more mature, I mean, that was a situation which was good. I would not say it was bad because, it was a requirement for the moment. We were desperate to do things quickly, right? And really that approach helped us, right? But then at this point, it's important that we look at it like product engineering instead of engineering products, right? So now for us, everything comes as product comes first. So you really get into planning what exactly has to be done, how you have to build it, how do you really tackle what it could be, the different phases you can do the development on. Any new requirements coming from the customer, we really evaluate and does it really make sense into getting it right. So I think this is again a new learning in the company because we never worked like that before, right? But then you're right because there were a lot of challenges which we had gone through in the past 1.5 years, and we've been still trying to solve it. We're just there in terms of getting it there, because what we did is at that point when we brought in product and engineering, we saw that there was a lot of engineers not able to cope up with the way you have to really work, right? There were a lot of issues in terms of managing that progress. So what we did is we now see at one side, we want to leverage what the learning in the last 10 years and do this platform really well, which means you require people who have worked on the older platform to work on the newer platform, right? And the other end, you want to do it like a product. So it was like trying to find a balance between these two. So what we did is we started hiring, after we saw a lot of conflict and issues, we started hiring newer people who have worked on those kind of scenarios, right? So we hired engineering managers, who were like more than 10, 12 years of experience. We hired product folks from, let's say, companies who have done product really, really well, right? So, and once we brought in, we started scaling it with a mix of people who have done this from the past 10 years, who brought in the engineering mindset and who could understand the scale what we are dealing with, right? So it took us about a good 1.5 years to kind of, while we were building, we were also trying to solve this particular problem, right? So I think we're quite there now, but then I think this team is growing over a period of time. And my objective is like, once we have this solid process running, we would move more and more people from our existing engineering team into this particular team, which will work in a product focus and sprint or agile methodology and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I just had a follow-up question here. So it's because of the platform that you started hiring a lot of folks who are already experienced as such. I'm sure that would have also driven up your operational cost, right? Apart from building a new platform itself, is that the reason to raise funds that did you go IPO, or was it always the plan? Then was it a dream that you had?
Being a follower of Narayan Murthy, who took his company to public, way back in 2009, when anybody asked me about where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Okay. And I always told him that I want to be a listed company, right? So, that just came out like a desire to be, right? And then meanwhile, like every 2 or 3 years, people follow up, right? And they ask you, like, you get the same question, and that was the same thing that came out of me, at least, right? So the initial plan was the India Stock Exchange, but then moving forward, I think in that direction, when we started figuring out what makes more sense, MSME launched. We also evaluated that option, but then no matter, a lot of things happen in between. I know there's a question that is coming up later about how did we really merge, but then this sequence of events that happened, right? So in exactly 10 years, that was November 2019. Okay, we were at the New York Stock Exchange, ringing the bell. 2009 you started, and 2019 you were there, and something which you aspired to do 10 years back, right? So there's no clue about what's important about what is the good thing about going public, right? We never knew all that, but it's just that you want to do something in the next 10 years, and that was our top line goal.
All right, and the merger didn't really change anything, right? I just want to know that particular story. Were the other stakeholders, were they also like okay with it? How did you even meet them?
When we started looking at the global market, we saw that, again, going back to our story, bootstrap, not able to hire people with a lot of experience, trying to do things on yourself, right? You meet a lot of senior people in the industry when you go out to the global market, and you know that being an Indian, it's again more difficult to sell something globally, right? So then at that time, we started thinking about we should hire someone from Europe or some US local who could really help us pursue this dream, right? And that's when I think in one of our visits to Barcelona, we were talking, we met some customers, we had some customers using our global platform, and that's when we met the CEO of Ubiquity, right? And they had all the background work done on us, and we were meeting them like a customer, right? And fortunately, both me and Aniket were present in that particular event, and we spoke in length about what our aspirations are. So uh, even Ubiquity wanted to do IPO, and they wanted to do it in Milan Stock Exchange, right? And we want to do in India, and we saw, okay, I think someone senior coming in can really give us a boost to get there, okay? Because you need numbers, and merger obviously helps, right? So after the merger, we were like almost about $70 million in revenue, right? And that kept growing again, right? So um, so we said, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and we were complementing in a lot of way, right? Because the Ubiquity was extremely focused in the banking platforms only for the Italian market, and we were something which was based on cloud, right? So we were really complementing ourselves in terms of how we have to pursue this further, and then that's how we decided to merge. So then, like for Milan Stock Exchange, we worked for about a year or so, and then again in the following Mobile World Congress event where we had a stall and we did a rebranding, we got an opportunity to acquire a company in US. Okay, and we saw that as an opportunity to get into the US stock exchange. So immediately grabbed that particular opportunity, and then we started looking at New York Stock Exchange, and that's what happened, and that's how we moved there. So I think mergers do fail, people say, but then I think Italian mindset and the Indian mindset is quite similar. I think the cultural values and the family values are quite similar. Okay, and then I think as an entrepreneur, right, like me, Aniket, and also the founders of Ubiquity were entrepreneurs. So we found a balance. We took the calls that were necessary, and to really make this speed up. I mean, do it like in 10 years.
Right, right. That's actually fantastic. I mean, a lot of coincidence, should I say? A lot of things had to come together for that to happen. Yeah. And for all the listeners who perhaps didn't join in at the very start of the call, right? I know we're speaking about Kaleyra here, but Kaleyra is a rebranded name. So Ubiquity and Solutions Infini came together. They merged, and the merged entity is what we see as Kaleyra today. And just like Ashish mentioned, they are listed on NYSE right now, the New York Stock Exchange, and that's the reason Ashish was also able to give us his revenue numbers as such, right? So yeah, that's actually fantastic. And the only other question before I actually open it up to the audience, right, is perhaps when you started off in uh, you know 2009. Of course, the crisis was of course there. I think investments were difficult to come by too, even if you had gone for them. But as you progress, of course, investments. If you had gone for a VC funding, perhaps you still would have received the funding, right? And it's a very crowded market. I still don't understand. What was the? I mean, what is the thought process? Why did you stick to being bootstrapped, where you could have perhaps taken the funding to actually compete in this particular crowded market?
Thankfully, from the day we started, and we had to pay salaries for people, we have never delayed the salaries. We've never said them for a month saying that we can't pay your salaries until now. I mean, it'll continue going forward as well. But then, at that point, when we started off, there was a lot of stories about Flipkart, who was also our neighbors in Koramangala. We were hearing stories about they raising so much money, and then we kind of looked back and said, okay, what exactly is happening, right? So you have to get your story right to kind of pitch to the VCs, right? And we were only talking about something which is short term, because we always improved uh, when the time was there, right? I mean, there's a need, let's do it. There's a need, let's do it. Okay, we didn't have a plan that we want to do that, except for the IPO that we want to do in 10 years. And we started doing a lot of brainstorming during that phase. We reached out to some VCs also. Okay, we went there and we had some dry fruits with them, but then they really said, okay, come back when you are like so much big, right? So come back when you have figured this out. And there were some questions which we really didn't have answers to, right? And then at a certain point, we decided, okay, let's do it ourselves. I mean, why do we need to raise money, right? And we got some opportunities, like saying that someone told us that, okay, you can probably reach out to this VC, he's interested. But somehow, things didn't fall in place, because I think we were hoping for something more bigger.
Okay.
Right. So we didn't fall, and then we kind of gave out. We started focusing on what we were doing. We really didn't have the need for raising any money. I mean, we don't even have loans.
Right. And okay, maybe just, I know it's an extension to my previous question, but I really wanted to ask this. So IPO is generally done when you want to raise funds, right? Eventually, but I know it was a dream that you always had. But apart from that, did the IPO actually help you out in other ways?
No, I think it's a long shot. I mean, it takes some time, right? Because your story has to be appealing to investors. Okay, you have to show them growth. I think there's a lot of technicalities, and it's a different game altogether. Okay, thankfully, I'm not playing that. Okay, I'm just helping the company to ensure that the product gets right. I mean, so we have our own focus. So our group CEO, Mr. Dario, is taking care of interacting with investors and having that, let's say, the image in front of the investors. I mean, it's a learning for him as well. Okay, so I think that's the main objective. But then, I mean, we have a plan whether when we are improving our communication stack, we want to do it quickly. Okay, we don't want to waste a lot of time. So it'll be like a make or a buy, right? So that's our decision. So which means when you're buying, you need access to funds, right? And that's something which we are figuring out in terms of how we can really manage that part, and looking at some possible acquisitions which we can make around the world.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think we've yeah, we pretty much covered everything. As such, I really wanted to cover two parts in this particular talk. One was, of course, your journey of building different products, how you diversified, and how did the platform angle come up. And the second part was about the bootstrapping side as such. Of course, we covered very little about the bootstrapping side, but I really want to open it up to the audience, because it looks like there are so many questions out there waiting for you, right? So, Mithra, do you want to take up the questions? Maybe if you want to read it out.
Yeah, I'll do that, Akash. So before we actually open it to the audience, I just had one question. I know it's hypothetical, just one question, Ashish. I know back in 2009, there was bootstrapping and VC. Then maybe out of, you really did not have a choice, so you went with bootstrapping or something like that. But same decision, if you have to take it today, what would you do? Would you go for bootstrapping or VC?
I think as and when you kind of are doing something for some time, right? I mean, how you have a clearer picture about what you want to go, where you want to go, right? So I think if I have to do it now, I would not do it on my money. Okay, I would go to VCs. I would get the buy-in for whatever I want to do. I think you obviously get someone who's backing your idea, okay, with his money, and I think that's a good situation to in, because you know how to really scale. Sometimes taking smaller steps towards a bigger goal helps when you have no clue about how to do it. Okay, and let's say if at that moment, at that time, if we had senior folks who had the clarity about how things work, right, rather than experimenting and then really failing up, but then they know that these things don't work. This is the way you have to do it. You have a speedy way to kind of get to your destination, right? So I think that has changed for me in the past few years, right? So because like in the past 14, 15 years, I've been doing this. I've been understanding things, how you really approach it. So for now, I would say if I have to do something, I would really ask for people's money to get my ideas authenticated and then move forward in that direction.
Okay, thanks, Akash. Thanks, Akash, and thank you, Ashish. So wonderful. I'll open up the questions to audience. I think we have the list here.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry, Mitra. I think we have a few questions on chat as well. Guys, it'd be fantastic if you can, put it up on the Slido link so that others can also see it and they can upvote it. And, we can take it to the order of relevance. Right. So it'd be great if we can do that. Yeah. So sorry, Mitra, carry on.
Yes, I'm just going to present my screen now and I'll start reading out the questions. One moment.
That's okay. I think you can just read out those questions perhaps.
All right, so let me do that. So the first question for you, Ashish, is bootstrapping even a considerable option in 2020 when you start up? Won't you be left behind while your competitors with scale?
So yes, you will be. You will be, you have to, see, it's a matter of fact that how much are you investing initially, right? So if you're talking about bootstrapping, let's say how much money do you need to start, right? And then how soon can you really get over the working capital? And you should not be shortage of getting your working capital done. At that time we strike a balance by not hiring people, but then I think that's not the way you can really run, because then there's a slow progression towards achieving what you want to achieve. So I think if you have a rock solid idea and you think you believe in it, I think I tell a lot of founders that I get a lot of questions like this, that what was your plan B? I mean, did you think about what you would have failed, right? So if I go back and think about it, that never struck our mind. We never thought about failing on anything. We are always so positive that failure never struck our mind. Okay, it's the same thing. I mean, bootstrap will slow you down for sure, but then if your product, it depends on what kind of business model you're trying to arrive to, but then you can really do a bootstrap, have a proof of idea or a concept that works, and then raise money. It's again something which you can really do, right? But then honestly, I think 2020 is not meant for bootstrapping.
Okay, nice. So next question is, what is your tech stack, and more details on high architecting large scale application?
Okay, so when starting initially, again, you don't get an access to a lot of languages. I mean, you have to look for specific talent, something which is very easy to learn. So initially, we adapted a lot of PHP in our stack. Okay, it's a LAMP with PHP. Okay, and we obviously use MySQL, which moved to Maria after MySQL is acquired by Oracle. Okay, and then on our gateways, the stack is written on C. Okay, and that's typically the way we have architected this. But then, in Hexa, we are approaching everything like a microservice. It's the latest thing that is happening. And we are using the best language suited for solving the right problem, right? So we have a combination of Go, we have a combination of Node, PHP. So we are using these combined language to solve specific requirements, right? So that's about our tech stacks.
Okay, thank you, Ashish. So next question is, what typical challenges you faced when we were integrating products and building it into a single platform? I guess we covered it a little during our conversation, but anything you want to add, Ashish?
Yeah, again, see, the platform gateway remains, right? So what we are doing is we're wrapping the product layer, and the plan is to migrate all the legacy platforms to the new platform what we have. So, I think it's not about challenges, it's about the challenges which we faced before. We're trying to solve it here, very clearly stating that, okay, these are the problems which we may face if we approach it something in this particular way, right? So these are some problems which we are trying to tackle here, but then I think it's not really a problem. But then when you are trying to scale out, especially voice, when you're trying to go out to the global market, I think that's a challenge which we are currently going through.
Okay. So I hope that answered the question. And yeah, so next one is, if you hadn't gone IPO, what would you have? What do you see as a way forward?
I think what we would have done is we would have looked at global markets, because it's very, very lucrative. You have an option to make a lot of money in the global market, right? So that would be our way to go out, because at that moment we had moved out to Asia, having an offices in Dubai, Singapore. Okay, and we were looking at European markets. So I think that would be the ideal way: hire a lot of new folks and try and manage with our bootstrap money. Okay, and like a platform like maybe when we are doing something like a Hexa right now, it's something which we could have possibly raised some money from the market, right? So I think that would be our way of doing it.
That makes sense. Awesome. So the next question is, what is your advice for young entrepreneurs starting straight out of college? I guess basically this is your life story, but yeah.
Yeah. I think following passion is one important thing. When you are building something, I got so much attracted to the messaging piece at the initial stage when I was in college. I think that was a differential factor for me, right? So if you are straight from college and you have some ideas, I would say work on it. Uh, but build fast, ship fast, fail fast. I would say that, right? So because don't waste a lot of time in doing something which doesn't work. Try and give out your products for free if you have to initially vet the idea which you're working on. Okay, I would say have an approach. I mean, have an approach to see if your idea really works.
Yeah, great. So dealing with failure or setbacks can be a critical aspect for a startup founder. How can this be handled more effectively?
Sorry, dealing with
failures or setbacks.
Yeah, we had a lot of setbacks. Some people came and then they made us some. Let's say we've lost a lot of money because of that, right? And I think it's just a matter of time where you have to get over it. So typically, my mindset is I don't remember bad things. I always remember good things. So good things keeps you positive, keeps you in a particular direction. I think bad things, even if you fight with someone, I think I am someone who forgets it. I think that's the right attitude towards life.
Okay, so great. So be optimistic. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what were you? One moment. Yeah. Technically, what is the difference between a product and a platform? Which one call it? Okay. So what do you basically call as a product and what do you call as a platform?
Yeah. So like I said, platform is something which is dealing with external entity on a high level language, right? So I would not say that definition is correct, but then that's how I would put it, because when we are talking about a communication platform as a software, we also have a software piece and a platform piece that is coming in there, right? So platform being the layer which is talking to the operators, which is a mammoth inventory that we have to really manage. It's tricky. There's a lot of variables. There are a lot of chances of failures. It is spread across the world. Okay, and then we build some intelligence on top of that so that your communication becomes easy through this platform, right? Like your mobile phones.
Okay. Okay. So I hope that answers the question. So next one is, yeah, so this is too much information about Kaleyra's tech stack, I guess, but I'll still ask the question. So which cloud offering Kaleyra is using and what's the technical reason, as in whether you're using Azure, Google or AWS? And what is the Kaleyra's front-end programming language?
Okay, so we are using AWS at the moment. And also a mix of physical data centers. Okay, because we work with banking customers, there are some compliance and regulatory issues that we have to manage. Mm-hmm. It's a combination of both. And we are also evaluating Azure and GCP because we want to be cloud agnostic. And for Hexa, I think having a multi-cloud offering would be best. Okay. And for our front end, so we are moving to React.js at the moment, because when we started building Hexa, we wanted to do things quickly. And we had in-house expertise to do things in jQuery and JavaScripts, which we took up that line. And now slowly, module by module, we're converting to React.js.
Okay, so basically you're converting your entire code stack to React.js.
The front-end stack.
Front-end stack, yeah. Okay, awesome. So, I mean, I think that must be tough, but yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what's your view about VC ecosystem in India compared to elsewhere, especially in Bay Area?
I think I really don't pay a lot of attention to the VCs generally, but I got some opportunities to work with some accelerator programs in US. I think those are really good. Okay, we see a lot of opportunities in Bay Areas working with accelerator programs. But then I think I have no view about VCs because I don't know, because I don't know after this pandemic what will happen. Okay, how easy it'll be to raise money. And sometimes, we feel that I think we went public at the right time. Right. So I think that's my view.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Ashish. So how about weekend meetups building a hypothetical product and converting it as a platform? So what is your opinion on that?
Sorry, come again.
So how about weekend meetups, like, building a hypothetical product and converting it into a platform?
Weekend meetings.
Weekend meetings, I believe, I'm not sure who posted this question. Can someone explain, like the one who posted this question? Weekend meetups, are you referring to the community meetups like this? Okay, I guess I'm going to ignore this question for now and move on. But I think they refer to community meetups maybe communities coming together, building a product, and then eventually converting that into a platform. But let's ignore that question, Ashish.
So just one question here, Ashish, because we spoke about this question. There's one that we missed out perhaps. So that was basically on your audio video interactions that you had.
Okay,
so,
yeah. Problem.
Just wanted to understand that aspect a little more as to why. I mean, how difficult it is to perhaps get into the video tech zone, and your thoughts on that particular sector.
I can't discuss that in detail, but what I can tell you is we've been working on it for a very long time. We're especially trying to leverage WebRTC technology for doing what we're doing on audio video.
Right. All right. There was a question. If someone wants to add to that question, please feel free to add to the chat. Yeah. Sorry for that, Mithila. Please carry on.
No problem. No issues. I think it's because people are constantly upvoting. The popular questions are coming on top. So.
Yeah.
Okay, just one moment. Yeah, where was I?
One question here before. What's the minimum basic bootstrapping money required on average for any startup, Ashish?
Yeah, so when I started, I put in about 1 lakh. Okay, and then I went back to my family to ask for more, and they said, do something with 1 lakh. It should be enough, right? And then I think that was a moment where me and Aniket were talking about, let's say, we need more money to move forward, right? And then and that's where Aniket came back and said, okay, let me bring in some money and I can be a part of this thing, what you're doing. Right. Okay, so I think about 8 to 10 lakhs was good enough for us then. And I think maybe about, if we talk about 2020, maybe about 20 lakhs should be fine, 2025. That's again a wild guess, I mean, depends on how you are really executing it, what kind of capital, but then that's what we did. And then, in 2019, we were in need of more funds. Mm-hmm. And we managed to raise it with from our families, about 10, 15 lakhs, and we paid them back in about a year's time. Oh, the turning point for us.
Yeah, that's the amount of loan I would have taken for my college education, I guess. Still repaying. Yeah, carry on with it.
Yeah, okay. So there's one interesting question here. So how did you validate the product market fit? Was there a clear target market in mind when you started?
No, I'm sorry, we didn't get into all that, We knew that the guys who were doing messaging kind of a business, who they reach out to, right? So, and typically it on your phone, because let's say you get an SMS from Mr. Batra, Dr. Batra at that point of time, he's using it. And then you kind of nail down and try to figure out who is the right person and reach out to them and ask for a change. So that's the way we started initially. But then, for us, anyone nowadays, like for example, OTP was a big push for us, right? OTP, when it started, suddenly there was a need for having a message that could be secured and it has a two-factor authentication. So that really gave us a lot of boost. Now, again, there was one instance where, when we started off, the banks were already using a couple of providers, right? So they don't really want to change. So when you go and ask them, said, I'm happy with the provider I have. Why do you think I should change? At that point, we were very desperate to get into banking as a platform because banks, they generally float RFPs. You have to be certain years in business, and then you have to have certain amount of revenue, and we never fit into that kind of category, and we had no clue how to build a banking infra to manage this communication stack, right? So at that moment, we got an opportunity to work with Vijaya Bank. So Vijaya Bank was they were not very happy with what the current provider was, and then the guy there, he gave us an opportunity. He said, okay, this is what we need. So we immediately went back and started building a platform for the banking. Okay, and then we were able to run our tests in that particular environment, and then that's how we understood how the banking really works. Okay, and then we started taking that out to other banks, saying that we have this which the other guys do not offer, right? And if there was a need to connect to, let's say, the Oracle DB or MS SQL DB or whatever they wanted, we quickly wrapped it around that particular product. We call that as Infini. That's mostly known to the banking platforms. And then that's how we got an entry in a lot of banks after that.
Okay, so great. Nice. So this question is really interesting, Ashish. So do you have any plans to become an investor?
Yes, I am doing it right now.
Okay.
Awesome. So very small. I mean, just trying to help people who needs support where I can add value, probably. Okay, technically, I've been doing it with few of the companies who've started and helping them scale their product. Okay, also helping them with angel kind of investment if that's needed.
Okay, that's brilliant. Awesome. So guys, I'm just focusing on the questions which have maximum upwards because there are a lot of questions here and we have very limited time. So I'm just going to focus on those questions. The next one is the team more important than the idea itself, or a mediocre or below average team working on a big startup idea? Okay.
I think team is the most important thing. We found we were very, very fortunate to find people at that time who were equally motivated as you are. And I think one differential factor for us has been that we have always told these guys that you grow with us no matter what, right? Somebody is getting married and he says that the salary is not enough, I would like to move on. And that particular employee or a person is really important to the company. And that's what happened to me, right? And there was a very, very important guy. I think that he was a second employee in the company. He comes back to me when he was about to get married and he says, I was looking for other opportunities. I told him, see, you are a person I would want you to be by my side all the time. And if I grow, you grow with me, right? So, finding people like this who has really helped us make a lot of difference around. Okay, so we had about 2-3 guys like that who were crazy. And, if you have an idea, they improvise on it. They deliver really fast. I think finding guys like that, once you find them, don't let them go. Okay, that will be the ones who can really help you grow, and they will also grow along with you.
So true, so true. Amazing. So what are the new solutions in CPaaS that customers are looking for after number making and 2FA?
This CPaaS as a platform, I've seen it solves a lot of business problems, right? So like I gave you an example of a last mile delivery where let's say even if you're booking a cab, for example, let's say if you're using Ola or Uber, you book a cab and earlier, let's say a celebrity or a female sits into a car, the number was exposed, right? And then you kind of get harassed by the driver if his intentions are not right. So we've been able to solve that problem with our bridging solution. So we really brought in that solution where the numbers are not exposed. And when you call, that number is there for a temporary purpose until the ride is there. And then once you complete the ride, the number vanishes, right? So a lot of innovative ideas are coming around it, but it needs a mix of solutions, right? So for example, let's say on WhatsApp, you were chatting with a bot and there could be a trigger point that you want to do something like a mailing list, which you can prepare where you would like to send out communication to later. Right. So I think it's just, I would say the limit is how much we can think of. That's the possibility on a CPaaS you can really achieve. Right. So anything you want to do to communicate with the customer, I think a CPaaS can really do that for you.
Okay. Okay. So done. There's one more question here. I guess we have around 6 minutes. I hope I can cover at least 2 questions. So let's see. So dealing with that is done. Okay.
Can we take one question? I think it's a very different question here, Mithila. This is one about does Kaleyra actually work? Does it also help disabled people? Does the company work to help disabled people? Because they don't really have a lot of access to technology. So yeah, so it's.
So we work with businesses, right? We don't work with consumers, right? So now I don't know how you can really talk about it, but then like businesses take calls about how they want to use our solution, right? But I don't see that we have anything that fits into the disabled people's requirement. But then, I think making a website, which is, let's say, a developer section where people can accessibility, you generally talk about it. I think that's something which we are planning anyways. But I think it's more about business trying to see how they want to cater to a market for especially abled people.
Right. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I mean, from a Freshworks perspective, perhaps because I've kind of seen a few questions coming up. Maybe for the blind, you perhaps have all of these, the audio being recited so that it's easy to. So that's one particular use case. But yeah, thanks for explaining it, Ashish. Yeah, Mithila, you can take it forward.
I think we can cover only one question now, but I guess this is something that why Product Folks was founded in the first place. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that question. So Ashish, this is for you. How do any startup can reach out to you for any kind of technical help? Like how they can reach out to you? Is there any way that they can
So
reach out?
you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Twitter. My handle is WAL Ashish. And I can have my email also given. You can reach out to me on email as well.
Sure.
It's Ashish. If you want, I can read out to you right now. It's called Ashish, ASHISHAG67@gmail.com.
Ashish, if you don't mind, can you please put it out in the chat so that...
I'll do that, yeah.
I just put that down.
Okay, awesome.
That is it, right, Ashish? Ashish AG67@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Perfect. And on LinkedIn as well, and you're active on Twitter as well, is that?
Yes. Twitter.
Perfect. All right. Great. And for everybody, for the product market fit question, actually, I came across this superb article. You can actually go check it out. It's there in the chat section. And also there was a question about open source video chat tool. I think Jitsi is one tool that you can check it out.
I evaluated, yes.
Right. So
thank you for telling me. It's from the product book. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess that's about it, Ashish. We try to make it as fun as possible. It was wonderful listening to a lot of your stories as such, right?
Thank you so much. I loved walking on the memory lane. I mean, looking back at what will happen with me.
Great, it's fantastic. And actually, you know what? I have an extension of Ashish's answer for what Kaleyra can do for all of the budding entrepreneurs. If I'm not wrong, I was speaking to Kaleyra's marketing team, and I believe they were interested to provide certain credits to all the new budding entrepreneurs as such, so that you can start using all the products, right, without really paying any cost as such. Because it's all about getting you started, right? And once you hit that fit, once you start getting the revenue, of course, it's easier for you to start paying for the tool. So for you to get started, Kaleyra is offering these startup credits. So what product folks will do from our end is that we'll post from our social handles too, and it's exclusively for all the attendees for today, and also all the folks from our community. So yeah, thank you so much for supporting us as well, everybody who's on call today. We'll ensure that we send out the message to you so that you can use this particular coupon code or credits as such, and get in touch with Kaleyra's team, right?
From my HR team, we are also hiring. Please refer to our careers link to look for openings.
Yeah, it's very important actually.
We should have started with that.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, guys, for everything. We do have a talk tomorrow as well. Today's talk, of course, with Ashish was the first talk for the weekend. We do have one coming up for all the folks who are still in college. It's called Breaking into Product Management. Please, follow us on all of our handles: Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are really active on Twitter as such. And of course, if you want to take a look at Ashish's talk again, it'll be available on YouTube along with all the other talks that we've posted before, right? We have a bunch of other folks as well from Microsoft, from Amazon, all the other founders just like Ashish, who are narrating their stories. So please feel free to check out our channels. So anyways, thank you so much, guys, for being around. Thank you so much, Ashish, for taking your time out. It was a really fun session. I got to learn a lot, and of course, it was fun listening to the stories also, right? Nobody really goes into talking about these stories. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
This is the first time I'm talking about my stories in detail in a forum like this. So I'm very, very glad. Thank you so much. I love talking to everyone.
We are very proud, Ashish, for hosting you today, and had such a great time listening to all those stories. Yeah, such a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Done.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
for all the folks who are still in, please feel free to give us feedback as well, so that we can keep improving. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. Mithila, I'll end the session now, and we can catch up, right? Later. Thank you.